Welcome to One Insight. My name is Litvin. I grew up in London and I now live in LA. And this is a podcast for extraordinary top performers. You see, I've coached some of the most successful and talented people on the planet. I see what most people cannot see, and I dare to say what most people wouldn't dare to say. And what I know about success is that on the other side of it, it can actually be lonely. You can feel like more of an imposter the more successful you become. And when you're the most interesting person in the room, you're actually in the wrong room. I coach around insight. Life looks one way, something happens, the world looks different, and your entire world changes. It can happen in an instant. And this podcast is called One Insight because a single insight can change everything.
This was a really fun episode to record. At the start of every podcast, I get on a Zoom call with someone and I chat to them for a few minutes. Don't want to know where we're going to go, but I want to make them feel comfortable. And Irvine says something to me tongue-in-cheek about the fact that I probably made a mistake, that I wasn't really supposed to have called her, and is she really supposed to be there? But I catch it and I say, may I have your permission to jump straight into recording? And she says, yes. And you'll hear me right at the beginning calling her out because so many of us spend time fighting for our limitations. And I say to Irvine, what do you think? You're the one person who pulled the wool over my eyes and somehow you tricked me and you shouldn't be here? No, I see you. I see you. She's a powerful woman. She's an extraordinary woman. She starts to share with me. I start to share with her some of the things I've learned about her on LinkedIn. And she tells me all these things that weren't even on her LinkedIn bio. Irvine has built a business by word of mouth, one conversation, one relationship at a time. And that's extraordinary. And she wants to grow, but I have to help her see, don't worry about trying to grow by building an enormous Facebook community or doing marketing on LinkedIn. Continue what you're doing right now, building a business, one relationship at a time. We just need to help you expand that. And I give her 5 different ways. We draw out 3 things she's doing already in extraordinary ways and draw out 2 more to help her be remarkable. From the real sense of that word remarkable, when you're remarkable, people remark about you. They talk about you. That's literally a word of mouth business. So listen in if you want to create a word of mouth business in order to be remarkable. We're going to have fun. So you just said, kind of tongue-in-cheek to me, Irvine, that you don't know if I have the right person. Am I speaking to the right person right now? Like, did we get the email went to the wrong account? And my experience is of working with very, very successful people, real high performers, that so often people fight for their limitations. You know what? Let's say I did make a mistake. Let's say somehow you slipped through our radar. Like, we have this community of extraordinary people I interview on the podcast, I coach, and somehow you were the loser who slipped through the net. Well, why even mention that anyway, if that was true? And chances are, since I've got a track record of spending time with extraordinary people, we didn't mess up, that I'm meant to be speaking to you right now.
Okay.
So I asked you if I can jump on and start recording this before we're even ready. And thank you for saying yes, because I wanted to capture that on have it recorded, because it's not uncommon. So many of us fight for our limitations. Because we're trained to hold ourselves down, to not be too big, to what do they call it in Australia? Tall poppy syndrome. Don't stand out from a crowd. Sometimes it will save our lives to not stand out from a crowd. And for most of human history, in fact, it was not a good thing to stand out. And there's a reason you're here. Look, I wanted to bring you on the podcast because you remember Transition Excellence. It's really fun to interact with you there. I spent time looking through your bio. You've got a background in the mortgage world, and then you were a business systems analyst. You worked at Capgemini. You've done some extraordinary things in your life.
I've done a lot, and that's not even everything. You know how they tell you to cut off your LinkedIn at a certain point so you don't look a certain age or you look like you've done everywhere. So yeah, that's not even the full bio.
So
Remember, I told you I started off in engineering. So
okay, so look, this is the thing. You know, we it's our world, it's our life, so we forget how extraordinary it can be to other people.
yeah.
I didn't know you'd cut that off. I didn't know there was a thing in LinkedIn where you're supposed to cut off your bio, you age yourself. But yeah, you've done some extraordinary things that don't even come onto that. And that alone was enough for me to say, wow, you're doing some extraordinary things in the world.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. I can still feel that sense of humility in you. And that's great. There's a place where, you know, humility is great in the world. And there's also a place where you can put humility to one side. You know that line, I forget who said it, it's not bragging if you've done it.
Yes, someone great I know who has said that, yes.
Yeah. So let's play. Look, everyone who's listening now is going to get a chance to hear what I normally say before we start recording, because I said, let's start recording straight away. What I normally say at the start of all these episodes is, look, we're going to talk. I have no agenda. I don't know what we're going to talk about. You might have some thoughts, but we'll find out. And then if at the end, either you or I think, we didn't like this, it didn't work out, I said something I didn't want to say, we don't have to send it to the podcast company to put it up live. Now, I said it every time. I've recorded over 120 episodes, I believe. And I say it to everybody as I'm talking to them in the intro, prepping before we go on. And I say it so that I can relax. Because if I'm trying to perform, then I'm not going to be present with you. And also so you can relax, because you haven't done this before. And I want you to better relax. If we don't like this episode, we won't put it up. Yeah. And the interesting thing, of course, is after 120 episodes, I've never not put one up, because each time we're relaxed enough that something cool happens. Yeah. How's that sound?
Awesome.
Great. Now I have a particular request. I want to make sure names are really important. I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. How do I say your name?
It's Irvine.
Irvine. I knew I'd asked that before, so I wanted to make sure.
I was waiting for a break point to say, hey, before you record, Irvine.
Well, and that's, you know, and even that I love, because one of the things I found is that the less I try to get it right, the less I try and be perfect, the more I get to connect to people. Mm-hmm. So thanks, Irvine. Thanks for telling me exactly how to pronounce your name.
Cool.
So you're with me in a community called Transition Excellence. Mm-hmm. TE, as we sometimes call it, is my passion project. I decided a couple of years back that it was time to get more widely known in what we do. Having spent 16 years building a boutique business, being known by word of mouth alone, I wanted to share this message with more and more people. I have a business partner in a 1 + 1 = 11 relationship. He stays in his zone of genius, I stay in mine, and we're creating something really cool. So my zone of genius is creating and building great community. His zone of genius is building big companies and being a great digital marketer. Together, we create a great partnership. And we created Transition Excellence to help high-level leaders, people who've been successful in corporate, like you, to help them fly in the world of coaching and consulting. And here we are. So it's exciting for me to better have a conversation with you today. Can I ask you, how did you even know about Transition Excellence before we dive into your story?
Okay. Well, because I came across you from Mind Valley. Mm-hmm. And I signed up for your Being an Exponential Coach program there. And when I saw the masterclass, I immediately said, this is it. It was an immediate, yes, this is the person I want to follow. And I actually saw Transition Excellence for the first cohort, but it was already closed. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh no. So I put myself on the waiting list. And as soon as it came up, I was ready to sign up. So,
and what was missing for you in your world or your business that, you know, like, I think this is what I'm going to get this out of here, this program?
Okay. The main thing for me is, and I'm sure what I say isn't the first time you've heard this, but coaching is like the wild, wild west. You know, when you come in and you just see everyone doing different things and, oh, we do it this way and you need this and you need that. And coming from a corporate standpoint of where things are, aligned and structured. There's a process, there's a way to do things, and there's creativity, but there's a general framework that you follow and you go along. And here it's just everyone's doing everything. And it's all this noise of you need to do this and this. And you can feel the salesy, you can feel it like an energy of just all of this. Yeah, and almost to the point where you have to go out sounding desperate to get people to work with you.
Yeah.
And I really like you're counterintuitive. You come with a different perspective, a different insight, the shift of, hey, slow down to speed up. One connection at a time. And that's what I learned in sales. I was a real estate agent. I was a top producing agent. That's not on the bio. I was a top producing agent here in Chicago for like 2 years in a row. Received an award and everything. And you learned in sales that it's about creating the connection, one step at a time, not this do all these crazy things and, just short of being a performer. It's about being genuine and creating genuine connections. And I'm a person who's curious about people anyway. I like getting to know people. I like learning about people. And so I thought that resonated with me. That's how I want to be in this world. That's the business that I want to create.
Can I reflect that back to you?
Sure.
Sometimes we can't, we can say things out loud. We don't always see ourselves. Here's what I hear about you.
Mm-hmm.
You've been curious about people your entire life. You were a really high performing sales agent in the real estate world, not because you pushed yourself to achieve higher than anybody else, but because you connected with people deeply. And you've been doing it your entire career. And now in this world of consulting and coaching, where everyone is pushing high-level marketing tactics and techniques, you continue to build a business, one relationship, one connection at a time.
Yes. It's what resonates with me.
Yeah.
And I feel more comfortable there. And I see the results when I work with my clients because I've created that connection and established that with them. I see that their transformation is that much more powerful. And when I get the results back, they tell me, they say, Irving, from the moment we first spoke, you created this safe place. You created this calm. You created where I felt I could be my total complete self. I could take off the mask. I could do these things and really go after what it was that I needed. That's what I want.
Nice.
If I have to be someone else that I'm not, I've done that in the corporate world. I've cut off parts of myself in corporate to get along, to fit along, to go along, to grow and do the things that I thought I needed to do. In this space, I want to be me because I want my clients to be able to be fully themselves as well. So
I have a big smile on my face because you got to listen later to this podcast and transcribe what you just said and put that on your website or speak that into the world on a regular basis because it's very, very powerful. I've worked with lots of very powerful women in the corporate world over the years. And very similar things they'll say. I had to cut off part of myself in order to show up a certain way, do certain things, speak in a certain way, show up a certain way. And then I was lost.
Yeah.
I lost myself.
I didn't realize the more I was doing the expected things, how much I was hurting myself internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we are. No mistake that you're here. I actively wanted to spend time with you. How can I support you? What would make this an amazing conversation?
I thought about that. And the thing that keeps coming up for me is now I'm at this place where I'm feeling like I'm a best kept secret. And I don't know how to quite make that shift.
Great. I know that one myself. 16 years, I think, of being a best kept secret. And let's talk about some ways you can shift that. how many clients do you want a year?
Good question. I want, when it comes to clients, if I look at a total, and I guess, do you mean at any given time or?
Every year.
Okay.
You can say per month or per year, whichever.
I would say maybe about 5 or 6 per month. So
5 or 6 new clients per month?
Oh, no. Like I'm working with about 5 or 6 actively in the month.
And so how long do you work with a client for? Is it for a quarter, for 6 months, for a year?
It depends. For right now.
What's your desire? Forget what it is now. What's your desire?
Okay, what's my desire? I would say about 6 months to a year. Because the work that I do, it doesn't take very long for them to receive their transformation.
Yep.
And the change that they go through. If they want to continue with me on a maintenance type basis, or they just want to say, hey, Irvine, I want to check in with you on this. Great. But for them to really have that change in their life, about 6 months.
Great. So round about 12 clients a year.
Mm-hmm.
What's that face?
Yeah. No, I'm doing my math in my head. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, right? It's not complex, right?
It's not complex at all. It's like, oh, okay.
So we're not talking about going from a best kept secret to being promoted by some of the top marketing companies on the planet on every Facebook page out there and on TV. We're talking about a dozen people a year.
Yeah. Yeah. But then even as I say that, Rich, though, is that enough to create the change that I want to create?
Well, the answer to that is it depends.
Mm-hmm.
I am interested to work with leaders who are at a higher and higher level over time. Yeah. So that I don't need to work with more and more people over time, that my impact is increased because I have leverage. Every time I work with a more powerful leader, the impact is bigger. Yes. That excites me.
Mm-hmm. And that is exciting.
So it sounds like we're talking. You can always change your mind in a minute, but let me catch you where we are now.
No.
If you worked with a dozen clients a year, but each year you upped the bar for the impact they were having, the difference they were making in the world, for who they were and how they inspired you, that would feel really good.
It would feel amazing.
Great.
Because I know that the work is happening in just exponentially. It's continued growth.
Great. So there's some things that we need to do. And it isn't hiring one of the top marketing experts on the planet to create a LinkedIn strategy and a social media strategy. I mean, do those things that they make you feel alive and they're fun for you. But number one, we have to start off with, don't lose sight of word of mouth. It is the platinum standard for any business. If you're growing a business that's word of mouth, and you must be if you're a best kept secret, then how are you doing that? Tell me about what you're doing now so we can leverage that rather than try and create some new strategy.
So I've held free training sessions in different masterclasses. And because those people have experienced me, when I made an offer, they would move forward to work with me in some additional capacity. The other way people know me is other communities that I'm a part of. They get to know me as I'm sharing insights, or they come to me for some type of advice or something I'm saying in relative to the topic. And they're like, wow, that was really good. Can I speak to you more about that? The other is form a network. People who know me from all this 20 years of corporate background. It's funny because a lot of people spoke to me even then about things that had nothing to do with work. And so they know me they see me in a different light. And so they'll say, oh, Irvine, how can I help you? Who can I send to you? So it's almost as if they get to know me and they see. Yeah.
I want to break it down because what you've just delivered is a masterclass in how to build a word of mouth business. We got to just help you tune that. Really, there's I think there's one piece you might want to add in, but
Sure.
you've mentioned 3 elements to creating an amazing word of mouth business.
Mhm.
Most of them are about the heart of the Prosperous coach, which is give people an experience of you. Sell the experience, not the concept.
Yes.
So number 1, you created things like trainings and masterclasses so people could experience you. They were either pro bono or a small fee. So people go, oh my God, I want some more of this. And then they'll start to pay or pay more over time. That's great. Let's bookmark that for a moment, but let's look at ways you can do more of that. Number 2, other people's communities, other communities. Go in and create value for people. Don't go and try and sell, especially in this day and age. It doesn't feel good if you show up in some Facebook group and you're trying to sell there, but give value. Share insights, ideas, support people, because some of those people are going to go, wow, that's really interesting. Where'd you get that idea from? Oh, funny you should ask. Jump on a call with me. Let's talk. Let me learn about you. So same thing, drawing people into an experience with you. Not secretly trying to get them as a client, but just this is who you are. And I can tell this is how you show up. You give value to people. So number 1, masterclasses. Number 2, other people's communities. Number 3, your former network.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you imagine a target, like a bow and arrow fires at a target, you have concentric rings, right? There's the bullseye at the center, and then these rings that go out from there. So the bullseye, right at the center, there's you and a handful of people who know you really, really well. Mm-hmm. You go out one concentric circle, then it's the pretty close friends, colleagues. You go out slowly further and further, and then it's prior colleagues, old friends, and you get to the outermost circle. And beyond that is people who've never heard of you, don't know anything about you. Mm-hmm. And most of the people on Facebook who are teaching you about marketing are teaching you how to get to all those people who've never heard of you, know nothing about you. Mm-hmm. There's a place where you can do that. If it lights you up, you can do that, but you don't need to if you're building a practice with no more than a dozen new clients a year. You go into those circles and you start in the innermost circle. And so your former network is a great place to go because it's a place where you're trusted by people. Again, it feels a bit off. It's a bit like if you ever have a friend who starts, what do they call it, network marketing, and they start calling you up and saying, hey, I'm selling these new cleaning products. They're amazing. Come on. It just turns you off. But if you show up and say, hey, Paula, we haven't spoken for 3 years now. How's life? What's going on? Genuine curiosity, and that's who you are.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will say, well, what are you up to? Funny you should ask. Mm-hmm. I'm doing consulting and coaching. What do you mean? Well, I work with people like this. Here are the challenges I see. Or, funny you should ask. This morning, I was working with someone who's facing this challenge. Yeah. And watch what happens as some of those people say, tell me more.
Yeah. I literally have just had a call with someone. And that's exactly what's happening. So we're speaking next week, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Irvine, I'm starting this new job, and I'm overseas right now. But as soon as I come back, because I need your help, because I need to do good in this." I'm like, "Okay, great."
Love it. Yeah. This is a person who knows you and trusts you. When you get on a call to say, "How's life?" Like they realize what you're up to could be of value to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are 3 great ways you're already doing it. Keep doing more of that and hone it. Look for, actually, what kind of masterclasses do I like to do? What ones resonate the most? Make stuff up. I mean, that's what I'm constantly doing. People don't know this. They see the things that work for me and assume that, wow, if only I could do the things that Rich does. I'm making stuff up all the time. I mentioned on our call this morning, I'm going to Dubai with my family at Christmas. I made up a program that will involve a couple of days my clients coming out to Dubai. Yeah. I made that up. I haven't even told anyone out loud about it right now, but I'm making stuff up all the time. Yeah. And some of it works and some of it doesn't. And then you just keep following the paths of what works, what lights you up, what lights your clients up. So do more of that. Keep creating value in other people's communities. They'll love you for that. And keep serving your prior network, people you used to know, old friends, old colleagues. Mm-hmm. 2 other ways I'll add in. One is referrals. When was the last time you asked one of your clients, hey, I built a word of mouth business. Don't spend time doing Facebook ads, posting on LinkedIn. I serve people as powerfully as I can. And every once in a while, I ask them, is there someone you know who would get some value from this? Do you ever ask a question like that?
I don't do it consistently.
Okay. So we need to shift that.
Yeah.
We need to have it be that in future, every initial conversation, so someone's signed up to become a client and you're setting the agreements for how you're going to work together, you say to them, look, Jim, you just need to know one of the things that I do as I build a word of mouth business is that I don't waste time on ads online, but every once in a while I come to my clients and I'll ask them, is there someone you know who might benefit from this? So I want to check in with you right now before we even begin. May I have your permission to do that once in a while? If Jim says no, then great. You won't ever ask him. But when you ask it in that way, almost everybody says, sure. And then you've got this permission for yourself because we're afraid we might upset somebody. A great time to ask for a referral is when a client shows up with a success story.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the conversation, hey, we've finished our coaching for today. Let me check in before we go. Do you have 5 more minutes? If they don't, that's great. We'll speak next time. If they do, well, let me tell you, I build my business by word of mouth, one referral at a time. And I wanted to check in with you because especially today, you've had such an amazing success you shared. Is there anyone you know who is facing the struggles that you were before we began our work together that you think might really benefit from spending time with me? Because if there is, and I'm modeling for you how to the language for it now, because if there is someone like that, don't give me their email address. Don't send a cold email to the two of us introducing us. If there is someone like that, I'd love you to tell me their name. Can you think of one person like that right now? Because I'm not going to do cold emails to them. Tell me, does someone come to mind? And then bite your tongue until they say, because we're only asking for one person. What you don't want to do is say, will you think about anyone you got for a referral and come back to me? Because they'll say yes and they'll go away and they'll forget. Tell me right now, is there one person who comes to mind? Funny enough, I was talking to my sister-in-law the other day. Well, my old boss was just telling me that she's changing her career. Okay, tell me about your old boss. What did you love about them? What's inspiring about them? What are they up to now? What's their big dream? What's holding them back the most? Do you think they'd be open to coaching? And why did you say their name to me? Why do you think I might be of value to them? Now, I rushed those questions, and I know you can listen to the podcast later and write them down. But what those questions do, Irvine, is they draw out from that person, oh my God, this would be a great person to speak to, Irvine. So that when they call up their friend, they're enrolling them in the conversation, not you.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah. So you're drawing that out of them. So yeah, you've got to practice making referrals. By the way, there's a corollary that goes with making referrals. Do you ever give referrals to other people?
I do, actually. And as soon as you said that, I thought about someone who she works with trauma.
Yeah.
And that's not an area that I focus on.
Yeah.
So when someone came to me with that, I immediately directed her there.
Nice. So you'll find if you want to receive more referrals, the world works as an exchange of energy. If you start creating more referrals on a regular basis, calling people up, hey, I think I got someone who would be really valuable to work with you. I think you'd really help them. You'll find that the energy comes back to you.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more because we talked about masterclasses, giving the experience of what you do, giving value to other people's community, your former network, and then referrals. And the last one, create community. It's time for you to create your own. Now we're there. Tell me more. What's that sound mean?
Oh, Rich. All right. So now we're digging the level deeper here. Okay, great. Yeah, more than once, I've been asked to, I started off, doing like little videos on Facebook, and sometimes just to get over my fear, because I've only made video clips, and people respond to them and they're saying, hey, Irvine, that was really good. I appreciate that insight. Give us more. And the assistant I just hired, she said, you need to have a group. You need to have a group. And I made this mention the other day saying, well, I think I'm going to start a podcast. I don't know why. It just came to me. And everyone's like, tell me when. I'm ready. I'm ready. And so I have this kind of dance with doing that.
Well, let me slow it down for you and make it easy for you. Because what I imagine you're afraid of is when I talk about creating community, what we tend to think of is, how am I going to reach out to all these strange people, and all these people I don't know are going to show up? And there's something scary in there. And what I'm talking about, you already have a community. It's all the clients you currently work with or have worked with in the past. So you could go to your current and former clients and say, hey, I'm creating the Fox network. Irvin's last name is... You don't like that one?
No, I was saying I don't know about the Fox network, but
okay.
That's fine.
Okay. Fair point. Irvin's last name is Fox, but there was something. Good point. Other associations, but create a fun name for it, whatever that is. My community is called 4PC. Mm-hmm. It means nothing really out in the world. I made that up. It stands for the 4% Club. But as I've talked about it more and more, people hear about 4PC and they don't even know what it means. You can I have a group called Project Kairos. Transition Excellence. These are just names I've made up. Yeah. So create a community and then one at a time reach out to current clients and say, hey, I'm building a community, one person at a time. This isn't some big Facebook launch to get 1,000 people in a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. This is me building a small community, one person at a time.
Yes.
Here's what's going to happen. And then you decide, I don't know whether you want to do it on a platform like Facebook, whether it's creating there's an app called Mighty Networks that's great for building small communities. There's different ways you can play, but one at a time. Your job is to enroll these people one at a time. And I don't mean an email saying, "Hey, Irvin's community begins next week. You want to join us?" I mean one conversation at a time.
Yeah,
this is who it's for. Don't join to make me happy. It matters not to me if you're there or not. I'd much rather you weren't there if you're not feeling inspired to be there. But here's what we're going to do if we're there. Every Tuesday, I'm going to pick a topic of the week, something that scares me. And we're going to share the things that scare us. Or maybe it's Fearful Friday. Pick a couple of things a week that you're going to do in there, and that's it. Make it really simple. Maybe it's once a week only. And one at a time enroll people. There's a member of 4PC. His name's Chris Frolick. Chris was a famous DJ in the 90s, built a big company years later, and that's still running to this day. That's given him the freedom to create the life that he wants. Mm-hmm. Chris has stepped into coaching in a big way, and he only wants a handful of clients. So he's creating a newsletter called the Frolic 100. There's a maximum of 100 people allowed on this newsletter. And in fact, if you want to be on his newsletter, you get an interview. You have to prove that you'd be willing to receive this newsletter and interact with it. Mm-hmm. So Irvin's 50. Yeah. What do we say? You need a dozen clients a year? Mm-hmm. Irvin's dirty dozen. I mean, you get to play with this, right?
Yeah.
But create it in a way that feels good for you and draws something out of them.
Mm. I love that. That's what I want. I've thought about in the past, like, create some type of mastermind. That's the general term that everyone uses. And I said, I want to do that. And I like this. That's what I want. I want a smaller group of people, I don't need a whole body, a big, wide audience of people. Yeah. I like that. A circle.
Great.
Yeah.
I love that too. So this is what makes it unusual. Like, you acknowledged me earlier for the counterintuitive way that I do things, which tells me that there's something about you that likes doing things differently.
Yes.
So This is very different. This is very different to what everyone else is doing, where they're trying to grow their platforms online, fill their Facebook groups with people, do things differently.
Yeah.
If you're creating a podcast, do it differently. I recommend to every coach they model something like this podcast, where they're giving people an experience of you. Here's the thing about this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
People listen to it with headphones in their ears. You couldn't get more intimate than that. Whilst I do record this on video, you can watch it. Most people listen. They're going for a run. They're in a drive in their car. It feels very intimate. So as I'm coaching you or anybody else I'm working with, if you're listening, it feels like I'm coaching you. And so I really encourage you to think about a podcast like that, where you can continue to give people an experience of you. So go back to the masterclasses, your first strategy. Well, a masterclass of one. Maybe that's the title for the podcast, something around a masterclass of one. That's an interesting title. Mm-hmm. And draw people into that. Hey, this is a masterclass of one. This is a podcast for one person. What do you mean? How can you have a podcast for one person? Yeah, it's for the person I'm working with in that moment. Yeah. And if anybody else wants to listen, that's great, but it's not for them.
And that's how I said I wanted to do it, because I don't want to interview people. Everyone interviews.
Yeah. Irvin, I want to give you a gift if you'd like it. I created a program a couple of years back where I teach all the elements of building a word of mouth business. Mm-hmm. And I called it Be Remarkable. And I think we sell it for about $600, but I want to gift it to you because I love what you're up to and the fact that you're already building a word of mouth business. And in Be Remarkable, I break down even more all the elements of building a word of mouth business.
Cool. Well, thank you.
My pleasure. I love how you show up. It's been really great to connect with you. I can't wait to hear what happens with this podcast, what happens as you build your own community.
You'll get an invite.
Well, no, hang on, slow down. Let me catch you because I know you said that with a sense of fun. No, check in. Am I actually the kind of person that you want in that group? Am I actually the person that should be in there?
Mm.
And you don't have to answer right now, but that's a great question to leave you with. Actually, what are the qualities in that group? What are the values of people in that group? And that might mean, when you think about it, actually, yeah, I'd be a great person to invite. But it might be, and I hope it is actually, that no, I'm just outside it. It doesn't mean you don't like me. It doesn't mean you don't get value from being with me. But no. This, because so often our ideal client is the person who looks back at us in the mirror. And so where you've struggled, where you've had desires and dreams, that's what you need to describe to your client. And then you'd find out. So I know you said it with a sense of fun, the invitation, but I want to catch it even in that moment. No, get really clear, because if you're about anything, Irvin, it's about limitation. There's a limited number of clients I work with every year. There's a podcast that's only for one person and a group that's for no more than 50.
Yeah.
And so you've got to filter really carefully, because if you bring me in and I'm not your dream client, I'm keeping a dream client out of that community. And you want to be really careful you don't do that. Because the moment you start showing up this way is, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. Not for me, not for me. And that's actually, again, counterintuitive, very attractive. Because everyone else is going, yes, please, come on in, we'll take all of you.
Right. And that's how I want it to be.
I know.
Because for what needs to be done, the work that needs to be done, it's not, everyone isn't going to be able.
Exactly. There's some qualities that you draw out in your clients that is not for everyone. Mm-hmm. Irvin, thank you for playing. This was really fun.
Thank you, Rich, for having me. I guess I wasn't a mistake after all.
Who knew? Who knew?
Thank you so much.
For most of human history, it wasn't called coaching. It was called leadership. And it's what I love to do, to coach people, to lead people, and to mess with people's thinking. If you'd like more of this, or if you'd like to learn more about our community of extraordinary top performers, go to richlitvin.com/oneinsight.